outside of obviously Zion, to remain on the team? Or if they trade Zion or any of those guys, it's going to be a fire sale for anybody that's 25 or above?
I think, first of all, I think Poole's available. I think if a team wanted Poole, they could have Poole. He's also an expiring contract this coming summer. And so there will be some optionality for the Pelicans to sort of see how the playoffs shake out, see if there's any dissatisfied teams with their current makeup or expensive teams that are just thinking they need to restructure how they are set up, and see if they can turn Poole's expiring into maybe one or two rotation level players. If they can do that, then I think with their current 6 rotation level players, or vets, not rotation level, with DeJounte, Herb, Zion, Trey, Sadiq Bey, and then their bigs in Yves Misi, I think I would say is their guy that can really contribute right now. If they can turn Poole's money into 2 more rotation level guys, they'd be into a really good situation in terms of depth, because then Fears and Queen could probably take another step, and you'll get some reprieve if your main guys miss time. Right now, they just don't have that, and Poole just hasn't done anything to really earn his minutes, and it's better to just give them Fears. Now, your question about the fire sale, I think everybody on the team has a price, but the price is set intentionally high for guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. So if those prices are met, which is possible, we've seen teams give up 5 picks for Mikal Bridges, then those guys are available, but they're set to deter teams from asking.
Yeah, I was in terms of last offseason they went and got Kevon Looney, and now DeAndre Jordan's getting pretty much most of those even 5 minutes to start the game, just to kind of have a starting rim protector in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What's Looney's role? I know he's an older guy. He's not the most vocal guy too, in terms of getting vets. He's kind of more of a guy that's a veteran that just shows people by what he does in terms of going to practice and everything. But what have you seen in terms of why Kevon Looney is not? He's not old, right? He can play more so than DeAndre Jordan, but they have very different games. What's your take on why Looney hasn't been in the rotation really?
Yeah, look, unfortunately for Looney, the Pelicans have 3 young bigs that they would rather give minutes to, in Carlo, Makovich, Yves Misi, and Derek Queen. And the reason DeAndre is getting on the court now is that he rebounds better than all 3 of those players. Now, does he rebound better than Kevon Looney? Maybe, maybe not. But he is a better lob threat than Kevon Looney. So they like that spacing offensively more with DeAndre, and that rim protection, because he can still block shots. It's not an ideal solution, but I think in a way, this is speculation, by the way, that the coaching staff is showing, hey, this is what this team can look like if you had someone in the mold of a DeAndre Jordan that could rebound and block shots and was a vertical spacer and good at setting screens. This team could be really good, because DeAndre Jordan, to everybody's surprise, has won his minutes, and he continues to win his minutes. And I think it's just evidence that hey, if you can just do the bare minimum at that position, the Pelicans could be really good. Now, if they can get someone that can be more than the bare minimum, the guy that I have my eye on this summer that's a free agent is the local guy, Mitch Robinson. Now, he has health issues too, but if they can get a guy like Mitch Robinson in there, who is a monster on the boards, he offers rim protection, they can load manage him, because they have those young guys as well. He doesn't need to play 35 minutes a game, which can put him in positions to get hurt again. But yeah, that's the kind of player that I'd really be looking at. But Looney's fallen out of the rotation simply because I just don't think while I think he's sound defensively, he just doesn't offer the same kind of thing they're looking for offensively that Jordan provides. But both of them are really there to be vets. That's their role.
Just speaking on you mentioned Mitchell Robinson and just the injury stuff. In terms of the training staff, I'm just very curious about what's different now compared to maybe last year, the year before. Because every year people always talk about they would be good if they weren't injured. It's just a biggest hypothetical team out there. So I'm just curious, what have you seen from the training staff that's different from now from the past?
I think they have gotten really unlucky. If you go down the list of injuries, that the Pelicans players have gotten. Like Herb Jones separated his shoulder diving for a loose ball and someone landed on it. DeJounte Murray had that freak Achilles incident. Prior to that, he broke his hand. Zion's his injury history to me is largely due to his own habits and his own preparation and some of his own personal, I think Zion had some people in his ecosystem that weren't necessarily giving him the best of advice when it came to that stuff. I do think the guy that they lost in Daniel Bove, who was, I think, their VP of performance and all of that, he is someone the players really, really trusted, and specifically Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and some of the other star players. And I think with a lot of the medical stuff, as it is with coaching and other stuff, when you deal with professional athletes, it requires buy-in and trust. He's someone that they trusted at a high level, and I think Zion has credited him in multiple interviews publicly for getting him into the place that he's at now, along with Zion's personal trainer. That's a big loss for them. And the medical side of the front office, most of them are on final years of their deals. So it's going to look completely different come this summer. And it's something that I think people who follow the team need to be a little bit nervous about, because ownership wants to cut corners. They want operational costs to be lower. So there should be a healthy amount of skepticism that they're not going to invest in this area as much as David Griffin invested in this area. But we'll see, right? Like, the summer hasn't happened yet. It could be something completely different. It could be that, okay, all of these guys are out, done with their contracts. Dumars and Weaver are going to bring in a huge staff, and they're going to bring in all their own guys. It could be anything, right? But knowing the history of how this ownership group has operated and what their incentive structure is, like, that's an area of concern that I certainly have, and I think people need to be more aware of.
I thought that was like a great way of you putting it, how, ownership's going to want to cut corners, and that to look at it differently than how most people will look at roster construction, as you would just be thinking there is just one goal, and that is to eventually get that competitive advantage. But, things are done more ostensibly in the NBA, especially when you're dealing with certain ownership groups. But speaking of whatever, you've said everyone has a price. In terms of draft capital, players, or a combination of the two, what would you say is like a realistic return for the main guys in Zion, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones, maybe even Sadiq Bey, that they would be like, we'll actually listen to an offer if this is kind of where the start of a trade framework is, in comparison to what we were hearing in the trade deadline? They were just shutting down allegedly anything they were getting.
Yeah,